whenever we open up one of these packet tracer activity files, the PKA file, .pka file, always keep that in mind. We're always going to get prompted with this user profile. Don't forget, everybody, especially on these ones that are activities. These activities are self-grading, so you need to put your name in there to make sure you guys get credit for it. So I'm going to click OK, and it's always going to say, "Hey, do you want to reset the activity?" Yeah. And I'm going to close that one down there. Let me move these over because I've got another window open here. So let's get that window, and then we'll put this one at the side here, so we have two windows going. So everybody, the big goal for this first packet tracer activity was just to help you learn how to navigate the iOS, learn how to navigate Cisco's operating system. As we talked about Monday, it's a little different when we're in a command line interface. You know, right now, hopefully you guys can see my mouse, but that's a very handy thing with a graphic user interface. I can just, you know, if I need to navigate around, you know, if I need to navigate around Windows, well, I use my mouse to do that. So that makes navigation very easy. Navigation in a command line world is a lot different. So that's the big goal for this activity. I know a few students had asked, you know, I didn't really understand or get what I was doing here. You really weren't setting anything up with this packet tracer. Just wanted to point that out. This really isn't a one where we're setting anything up. I think the big goal with this one is really just to get you accustomed to navigating in and out of the different modes. As we go through this, I'll try to talk about and highlight those different modes. So everybody, whenever we, you know, my best advice on these packet tracers is literally go line by line and make sure you're you know, I'm on step 1, letter A, and you know, just go through and make sure you don't miss any of the steps, because they're all very important. And a lot of times when you do miss a step, it's one of those steps that you really needed for, you know, 3 or 4 steps way down the way. So you always have to you have to backtrack when that happens. So take your time, go through these one by one. So click the connections icon, that's that lightning bolt there, and we're going to pretty much connect a console cable from our PC over to our switch. Now that's how we would connect to one of our Cisco switches in real life. I would walk up to the PC here, and I have this RS-232 connection. Plug it into that there, and that goes into, although it could plug into a fast Ethernet port. I mean, in real life you could, because the end of it is an RJ45 connection. But you will see, whenever we do our labs later in the week, you guys will see there is a console port. It's clearly marked, you can see it, and you plug into the console port. And that's how we access the switch's operating system. Because what we're wanting to do is we need to get into the configuration of this switch to set it up. So click PC1 and a window would, okay, so I already went through pretty much all that, guys. We're really just connecting that console. So let's establish a terminal session with S1. So in PC1, go to the desktop tab, and then we're going to click on terminal. On there, let's go to the desktop. And guys, what this is, it's trying to mimic a real desktop. And if I wanted to check out a web browser, I could do that. But I want to go to this terminal, because I'm trying to emulate a terminal here. And you guys, you never have to change any of these, just let them be. Click OK. And there we go. We connect to a switch. Now, if we connected into the switch in real life, this is what, I mean, we would see the same screen. Let me minimize these real quick. In the lab, in our computer lab, we use a piece of software called TerraTerm. That's our terminal software. So this is what we will use. And guys, I'm doing this video recording on my home machine, so I don't have any of the Cisco devices here to connect into, but nor do I have a serial port, that RS-232 port. The computers in our computer lab have those. So if I was in the computer lab, I would click on serial port here. I wouldn't have to touch port. I would literally just click OK. And well, I'm not going to get anything here, but I would get that same, let me go back here. I would get this same screen, this black screen with white text. As we know, this is a very different operating system than what we're used to, right? This is nothing like Windows or nothing like Mac. But guys, this is an operating system, and we can do a lot of stuff. I mean, we can do an amazing amount of stuff with this operating system just through entering in commands, and that's where we'll do a lot of that over the next couple years. So we've connected into there. We're into the switch now. So I know that because I see S1 and this little greater than sign there. What that is user exec mode. When we log into a switch or a router or any Cisco device, when we log into that, we see the user exec prompt. And if the name of my switch was something different, that would show up. It wouldn't be S1. It could be switch-floor2. But the host name of my switch is here. But the big thing to look at is that symbol there. If it's the greater than symbol, then we're in user exec mode. So what this activity is wanting you guys to do is explore the help feature. Because the question mark here is our friend, because if I hit question mark, I don't even have to hit enter or anything. If I just hit question mark, I get presented with the list of commands that are now available here to me in user mode. Remember, we're in a user exec mode. We're in the lowest level mode that we log into that. And we really don't have a lot of power to do anything. I don't have a lot of power to change anything. I can show some stuff. I can ping. Looks like I can connect maybe. But going back to the question mark, what I can do is if I know something starts with, say, a T, I can hit T and then question mark. And I'll get presented with the commands that are available to me that start with the letter T. So that's what they were trying to do there, just trying to show you guys that, well, if you don't totally know the command you're looking for, you can use the built-in help function to help you figure that out. So in part 2 here, it's wanting us to enter into enable mode. Guys, you will always see it presented or talked about as privileged exec mode. You may hear me say it as enable mode. You may hear others say it as enable mode. But it's another step up from the user mode here. So we're in user exec mode here, a very low level mode. And now we've jumped up to privileged exec mode. We see that hashtag or pound sign, whichever one you want to call it. And let's just hit the question mark real quick, just so you guys can see. Oh, look, now I've got a lot more commands that are available to me. I can reload the switch from here. I can also still ping. It's like I can erase some stuff when I'm here. So now I've got some more power. You know, so this is us navigating through the operating system. I entered in a very low level. Now I've jumped up a level and I'm in privileged exec mode. Again, I think it wants us to do the activity there where we let's just type in DI and do a question mark. Oh, well then you get presented with the 3 commands that start with the letters DI. Here's a common use for the question mark. Some of the, I think it was the clock one the other day, or one of the packet tracer activities that has you guys do. Or actually, I think it might be the end of this one where we do the clock one. I'll save it for then. But it's one of those where I always have to use the question mark because I don't remember the formatting that I need to put it in. But the help function here helps me figure that out, so I don't have to remember that just off the top of my head. So here on step 2, I think we're on part 2. Yeah, part 2, step 2. Now we're jumping into this global configuration mode. When I go configure terminal. And now it says, oh, I've entered into the configuration mode. And I can end with a Control+Z. I'll show you guys that here in a minute. Or I think it might even show us here in the activity. So this mode, I always think of this as this is like the main mode. This is the mode, global configuration mode, is the mode where we have the most available commands to us. Let me hit, because there's a lot more commands here, just a little bit more than the privileged exec mode, but now I'm jumping into some even more specific commands. Just to tip everybody, a lot of the main commands that you'll use happen in global config mode. A lot of the main ones that we'll use happen there. Like for example, here's username. I can set up a username for the switch. Let's go username with a password Cisco. So I can set up a username in global configuration mode. I can also do the host name. I think we did that in some of the other exercises. Here I can also do the clock. Oh, and there's that banner. I think that's in one of these beginning exercises as well. So always keep in mind, a lot of the main stuff is in this global config mode. So let's set the clock. Looks like that's what it wants us to do. Let's set the clock here. So I want to hit exit because that's going to back me out. Exit backs me out of global configuration mode, and now I'm back to privileged exec mode. Because watch what happens again when I do exit. Well, I get backed out of GAN, so I've literally logged out of the switch now. When I log back in, I'm back into user exec mode. That was one of the activities I did in class, so I'm not sure how that video came out. So just in case, this is, I jump into privileged exec mode by typing in enable. Go to the configuration terminal. So now I'm in global config mode. But now let me back out with exit. But let's go back into global configuration mode. Configure terminal. Now let me show you guys too, because I've had exit, but I can also type end, and let's see what that does there. Well, that also backs me out of that one. Let's try that Control-Z. Let's go back into global config mode. And let me just hit Control-Z there. Oh, and that just backs me out as well. So that's a shortcut that you can always use instead of typing exit or end, either one of those. So it looks like it wants us to set the clock here in part 3. So let's set this clock up. So I'm in, and as I can see, it wants me to do this in privileged exec mode. S1 with the pound sign. You'll always have to pay attention to that. In these labs, as we go through, everybody, you'll see instructions that say, enter into global configuration mode and do this. Or enter into privileged exec mode and do this. And you need to know, you need to know what that means. So let's go S1 and let's show clock here like it's wanting us to do. Oh, and let's, oh, wow, it's 1993 here. So just following the steps here. Well, let's go ahead and try to set this clock from our privileged exec mode. So I can go clock set. But if I didn't know set, if I didn't know what I needed after that, I could go clock question mark. It says, oh, well, one of the things that you can choose is set. Okay, well, here's usually how I have to do it. Okay, what's after that one? Let me hit question mark again. Oh, okay. Well, the operating system is expecting a current time in this format. So here we go. Let me see. It's 9. We got to do 09:57. Let's just guess the seconds there. What's the next one? Oh, and it needs now a month. Oh, a day of the month. So it is the 25th. And then now I need to put the month. We do question mark again because I can never remember. Oh, now here's where we put the year, 2020. And there we go. Now I've set the clock to 9:57 for August 25th, 2020. And let me just do the show clock again just to make sure everything is there. And sure enough, there we are. Tuesday, August 25th, 2020. Let's see, I think that was most, yeah, it looks like we went through most of that. So everybody, just to reiterate, you know, the main goal of this exercise really wasn't to set anything up or anything. It was really just to help you navigate through the iOS. And let me just do a few here. So configure terminal. We'll get into global config mode. Well, and sometimes we want to set up the line console. Because now I'm jumping ahead a little bit, so don't worry if I get a little bit too far ahead. But check out what's different here. I've logged into the line console, and now I'm in the line configuration mode. So now I've jumped up another level. So now I'm 4 levels from where I started, because I went from user mode here to privileged mode. And then I went from privilege to configure terminal. Now I'm in global config mode. And now when I type in one of these lines, I get into the line configuration mode. Watch what happens when I do I'm going to do end here. Let's see how far it backs me out of this level. Oh, see, end took me all the way back to privileged exec mode. Let me get back to there again. Your terminal. Let's go back to the line console 0. Let me do exit this time, and just so we can see the difference. If I just do exit, I only back out 1 level back down to global config mode. So some other line configuration, or you'll see interface configuration mode. So if I want to get into the interface of port 1, I would type interface F0/1, and now check out what this one says, config-if. Now I'm in the interface configuration mode of port 1, and I can start putting in commands. So as I'm jumping super far ahead, but I can make it a access port. I think we saw this example the other day, switch port security is one I can do. I'm not gonna go too far into this, guys, but now I'm applying settings to the interface F01. This is really what I'm trying to show everybody here. Now I'm literally logged into, and let me bring up the picture here. You know, when I say that I log into or I access interface 1 or interface 24, you guys, I'm literally talking about, I'm plugging in to this guy right here, the port 1 right there. Let me zoom out. So if I was looking at the switch in the rack here, that one right there, you know, when I type interface F01, I'm pretty much logging into this port right here and applying settings. And there's a lot of them. There's a ton of settings that we can do. There's a ton of settings that we'll go through over the next couple years in the program. But let me do this. Let's back out of there with an exit. So guys, that should take me right back to global config mode. Let me exit that again, and I'm now backed out all the way down to privileged exec mode. Okay, hopefully that made sense. Hopefully that kind of cleared things up. Like I said, the goals for this packet tracer really weren't to set anything up. It was mostly to show you guys how to navigate through the operating system. Now, I would definitely recommend everyone, all of you, you could open up a packet tracer. This is something you guys could practice on your own at home. You've got access to packet tracer. Throw a switch down there. It's nice to practice with this console port or this console cable. But ultimately, you can click on the switch and just go directly into the command line for it. So I can access the switch directly. You don't have to do this, although I tell the students, especially right now, it's good to get in the habit of it since we're not actually in the lab doing this. But just to get it into your head that, well, when I'm accessing the switch through the console port, I'm literally connecting into it with a cable, and I'm going into my terminal program, and I'm accessing that way.